Good midday to you and shalom. This is the midday moment for June the 16th, 2026 here on Following Him, the Disciple Life, where we take a moment during midday, sometimes further from that time slot than others, and try to have a discipleship perspective on things going on, things we see in the news, events, things of that nature. Sometimes just other random thoughts to be shared from scripture and such. Today I want to take a moment to discuss a little bit of recent controversy that has arisen around Kanye West. I know, surprising that something about Kanye West would be controversial. And I'm not sure what name he's currently going by. I know he was going by Ye or Yee, and I'm not sure how you're supposed to pronounce that. I think I've only seen it, just typed out. I don't think I've actually heard it pronounced, but Kanye West, colorful character. I remember a certain outburst on a fundraiser for, I believe it was Hurricane Katrina years ago, where Mike Myers is talking, not the Halloween guy, the actor. And then Kanye West starts ranting about George Bush not liking, as he put it, black people. I prefer to say people with dark skin, but yeah, it definitely a colorful character to say the least. And yes, I disagree with many of his life choices from a biblical perspective. I am not the final judge, but Jesus is, and he has given us the teachings for how we're to live our life. And despite some professions of faith, there definitely have been things, particularly in recent times and then before his professions of faith, that were not in accordance with what Christ taught. But all things need to be evaluated according to Christ's teachings, and that's what we try to do with these midday moments. Recently, Senator Rick Scott has voiced a thought, because there is a concert that is scheduled at a stadium, apparently a taxpayer-funded stadium. Doesn't mean the concert itself is taxpayer-funded. From everything I understand, it's not. But that Kanye West is doing a performance at a stadium in Tampa, and Senator Rick Scott, Florida senator, he held a press conference and stuff and was urging, I think they're called the Tampa Sports Authority, I think is the name of the commission or governing body or what have you, urging them to not let Kanye West perform. And this is because, and he was apparently was backed up by certain people of influence in the Jewish community, because of Kanye West, up until fairly recently, his some very anti-Semitic things that he had been advancing and saying, and even find some rather disturbing things in some of his music and some of the merchandise that he was selling. I believe there was a swastika t-shirt or something. And so because of this, he has, said because of his anti-Semitism that he shouldn't be performing at this stadium. Now, last I knew, the Tampa Sports Authority has said to honor the freedom of speech. They're not going to prevent him from performing. But I don't think that's the big consideration on this one so far as evaluating the situation. Because here's the thing. It's one thing what Kanye was saying. It's another thing what he's saying now. Because from everything I can find, and I have looked just to make sure that my information is up to date, and as far as I know it is, he has completely renounced the things that he was saying. That is, Kanye West has completely renounced his anti-Semitism, that apparently he took out full-page ad in a national newspaper, and I have seen footage of him apologizing, I believe it was to a rabbi, maybe more than one rabbi, but apologizing to Jewish people in person for the hateful and hurtful things he said. The stuff that is, considering that there is violence that is done against people simply because they're Jewish, the dangerous rhetoric that he was putting forward. So, in other words, he was at least presenting himself as anti-Semitic, which, how internal that is or not, he's still saying and professing the the anti-Semitism, despite what he was, that from everything we can see now is not who he is now. And once again, maybe I'm missing some very, very up to date information, but the most up to date information I can find, he is no longer saying these things and being this person. That's not to say that he's become some sort of very religious, upright person, but in this matter, apparently he has changed. You know, when I read scripture, I read a passage like in Matthew 18. Then Peter came to him, talking about came to Jesus, and said, Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? Up to 7 times? Jesus said to him, I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 7. Jesus wants us to be forgiving people from a Christ perspective. Now, Kanye needs to still make sure he's right with Jesus, and I'm not saying that he is by any means. And I know people might point to his professions of faith. I would need to evaluate based on scripture and the choices he's made and what he's done. You know, if he is claiming to be saved, okay, but what did he do? Is it according to what's taught in scripture? But as far as how to regard him now in regards to something like anti-Semitism, if he's not professing that, there has to be room for forgiveness. There has to be room for forgiveness. And I have heard, there was another actor. I don't want to bring too many people's names in because it is dealing with sins of the past. But there was an actor that's been in some pretty big time stuff. And that apparently when he was younger, I don't even think he was of age yet, but he had committed some racially based crime. And I remember reading people in regards to this actor looking back at that, this saying, you know, well, once a racist, always a racist. That idea is not scriptural. That is just, that is sinful, just like the racism and the anti-Semitism, the Jew hatred, and the ethnicism is. Like that it's all sinful. Yes, it's wrong to be anti-Semitic, but it's also wrong to be unforgiving. So the disciples' perspective on the Kanye thing is Senator Rick Scott's wrong as far as wanting him banned based upon things he said in the past. If he's made, particularly, he's definitely made efforts to undo some of the damage. And so Senator Rick Scott, and looking at his political stances, it does look like he and I definitely share some similar views on some things. He, I think, would be considered a conservative, but he's wrong on this. There needs to be room for forgiveness. If Kanye has backed away from his anti-Semitism and has actually taken steps to undo that, that it is not right to continue to hold that against him. So this is more than a free speech issue. This is actually a forgiveness issue. And not being willing to extend forgiveness, holding something against someone that they're no longer doing, that is also immoral and against the teachings of the Christ. You have a good rest of the day. Lord willing, hopefully have up Tuesday tips here in just a little bit. And shalom.